Chinoy sir. So we would want him to say a few words and then we'll take it on.
Just a very warm good afternoon to everyone. We hope that you, your families, and all people in your organizations are staying safe. It is great to have you in this panel discussion. This segment of industry has actually had a very different kind of journey through the COVID time. If I were to take a lot of the inputs coming from the online people, the things that are selling most are pajamas and exercise things and flip-flops. So, I think how do we look at this segment and what do we do going forward is a very key aspect. Each one of you is a leader in your own right. Each one of you has got a huge experience, including Sonia, who is moderating. So I just want to say a big welcome to all of you. Welcome all the participants in this webinar. And I really look forward to learning about the industry and developing an agenda of how FICCI could actually help each one of you, go through the whole phase. We've termed it as survival, revival, and thrive. We need an agenda and then work together to make India really a center for the luxury sector going forward. So thank you and a very, very warm welcome.
Okay. Thank you so much, Dilip. And we are also hoping this uncertainty to end as fast as possible, as soon as possible. So I would like to again reiterate about today's agenda, which is the future of Indian luxury brands, the opportunities and challenges post COVID-19. And we have always seen that the luxury market in India has always been a very formidable success story. And with the number of high net worth individuals growing up and the kind of graph that GDP was showing us for India seemed very, very successful for the Indian luxury brands. But suddenly with this COVID, how things have changed. Maybe we can ponder on a little bit on that and then go on to other things. So I would like to firstly introduce all my guests here. We have the chair for FICCI Luxury and Lifestyle Forum, Sahil Malik. Sahil Malik is the managing director of Da Milano, a luxury leather accessories brand we all know, which has served as a bridge to premium luxury. Then we have Miss Kanika Chekriwal. Thank you so much for joining us. She is the one who turns every no to a yes. And she's been the BBC 100 most inspirational women list. And she's the founder of Jet Set Go. Then we have Miss Reena Dhaka, one who's been adorning the glamour world and the news media for a long time. She's a dynamic fashion designer and she's got many best designer awards. And her designs are adorned by important international celebrities we all know. So welcome, Reena. We have Nishant Chandra, who is the director of Carpet Seller, and which is also known as the Mecca for certified antique carpets. In fact, one of the paintings that you see behind him is another masterpiece. Then we have Arjun Nijhawan. Welcome, Arjun. So he is director for Nijhawan Group. We have been seeing Nijhawan Group as a leading retail player. It runs 34 showrooms for Levi's, Adidas, and Benetton. But I guess now it is in a consolidation phase with Benetton and Adidas. So we'll have more information from Arjun. We'll have Prashant Gaurav Gupta, who's the man behind Emporio and the DLF luxury malls. He's a business head there. We'll talk to him. Then we'll have Tarang Arora, who is a creative director for Amrapali Jewels. Amrapali, which has taken the heart of so many brides and been a flagship jewelry retail showroom. So, and has been going places, in fact, going to Harrods also. So maybe we can start first with Sahil. Sahil, some opening lines. How has COVID affected you?
Thank you, Sonia, for everybody's introduction. Well, I'm a pretty optimistic person. I feel that the worst is over. We were all locked down till a few months back, and I'm seeing a big surge in customer buying. The customers are now coming to the malls. Things are getting better. There was a short-term impact due to lockdown, but the opening of the online deliveries and then steady opening of with the better of the malls and marketplaces with good safety protocols. I think has really is increasing the demand, and I personally feel now there is no significant change in customers' behavior as such. Everyone has a see. Everyone feels that the daunting times will be over soon, and life as usual shall soon be back. So that's what how I look at it.
That's quite a positive statement there, that the customer behavior isn't changing much, which was feared initially. Kanika, I would like to come to you. One industry which has been really growing well is your industry. I believe the pre-COVID level requests have tripled or maybe ninefold increase, we've heard in some cases. Is it true?
So, Sonia, I think there's this common misconception that, oh, charters are doing really well and private jets are the way of the future and all of that. But it's a misconception because, the average age of our customers was 60 plus, and 20% of our customers contribute 80% of our business. None of them are stepping out of their house. No one's traveling, they're scared. So where you're really getting your business from is first-time travelers, people who never spent money on private jets before, people who are scared to travel commercial. And this is a very temporary phase. It's 2 or 3 more months. We're all learning how to live with COVID at the end of the day. So while our customer service teams and our phones are ringing off the hook, and I've got people introducing me to people by the second, so much so I've decided to go off my phone for this week. Converting those queries, it's like there's a lot of negotiation and conversion is low. So yeah, queries are increasing. The business size, everyone is saying, is increasing. But realistically speaking, I mean, you're only seeing the number of landings go down.
Okay. All right. So we will definitely talk about destination weddings, which will be starting soon, and hoping that the COVID vaccine will be here soon, and which we are keeping our fingers crossed on. Let's go on to Reena. Reena, we've seen in few. I think recently there was some kind of a virtual digital fashion show. How did it go, and how are you changing with times now? Is it new normal now?
So yes, this has been a new normal for me, especially to learn that I am a true tech phobe, and if I want to swim or sink, I need to get my hands on the phones and be good at it. So we have worked with virtual shows in the past. I have done it last year, but that was really to save costs. And now, of course, it is a reality. I'm also going to be doing a show with Emporio and FDCI, which will be our next fashion week. And it will be shown digitally and virtually. So what I've discovered when FDCI did the stock room, they did a big sale. And we tried to even quickly set up systems overnight to accept payments online, because I wasn't geared for it. I'm really old school here. And I was amazed at the success of it. There is an opportunity in there. It's not going to make us great, like it's not going to make us rich, but it can pay costs and it creates a new customer. It is also creating more value for your brand. It's increasing its reach and its foray, which is what I've learned in this virtual world, that there are mediums which the people trust, but not all mediums virtually are trusted for sales or transactions. So if you hitch a ride along a right medium, say an established medium, it is still a benefit. And I think that will be the way forward. Like Amazon, Net-a-Porter, these are the sites where people are all the time shopping online, whether it's athleisure, loungewear, as you predicted, those are the items which are selling.
So one thing that you said that I'm a little old-fashioned in certain things or old-timers, I will not and never agree with this because I still remember late 80s, you were very much ahead of your time and there were
I go crazy with the market, not in technology. Somehow I'm so afraid of something like this, but I'm getting there. I take classes now.
Great, that's nice to hear. So we'll move on to Nishant. Nishant, you've been in the carpet business for a long time. How has COVID affected your business? And how about the international orders? Have they seen a setback?
Yes, they have. COVID has affected everybody's life very dramatically, I feel. Particularly in the first few months, we were very badly affected as much because it was a very big unknown. I think even now, we hear lots of different points of view about people who say that the vaccine will be out maybe by the end of the year, maybe the first quarter of next year. And other people say that we won't even have it until August of next year. So I think there's still a lot more that needs to be learned and found out. For us, it's been a challenging time, but it's also been interesting because the first 3 or 4 months there was a complete shutdown, but now people have started looking at their homes, looking at what's happening, and realizing that they want to do things. People who are locked up or working from home for 4 months, 3, 4, 5, 6 months have a lot more have had a lot more time to look at that, and I feel that that's now translating into much a pick in demand. I think it's been very tough for our craftsmen and artisans. A lot of people have had a lot of challenges in getting even basics done. But I think there's going to be a new normal for a long time to come. I think things going back to pre-COVID times is going to be a long way in the future. But we all have to adapt as best as we can using technology, using all these mediums that are available to us now, and move forward.
Great. This is so nice to hear that even after the setbacks of COVID in the business, still everyone is so hopeful and looking forward for a great recovery, which is so great to hear. And I'll go off to Arjun now. Arjun, I would want to know that I had heard that the 2020 plans for your company were to increase some Levi's stores count, and are the plans still on track?
So first of all, I think we're all in the same storm, but we're on different boats. That's again a quote that I've taken from somewhere, so it's not on me entirely, but I think that sums up the entire situation. But yeah, I mean, there are still plans to see what's going on, but we're waiting things out. We mentioned, everything now is going to be an uphill battle on the way things are shaping up. At least for Levi's, Levi's is a brand that's heavily dependent on footfalls. And there's a lot of targeted drives that are done there. There's a lot of e-commerce presence. There's a lot of things that drive to get the customer there. On top of that, if you see a Levi's customer stays a Levi's customer for a long period of time, they don't typically switch to other brands fairly quickly as opposed to many other things. So the plans are still there. Will they happen this year? I highly doubt it. Will they happen next year? That remains to be seen. There was a quote today. I think Adar Poonawalla or some other gentleman came out that the vaccines, even if they come out, will not come out by 2024. And there are a lot of speculations going on. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty. So with that uncertainty, I can't comment. Yes, that is on the plan because the figures obviously do well. And one can't go wrong with a brand like Levi's. People do wish to wear it. They do wish to come. On the positive side, however many masks we put out in our store, they do get sold out. So that just goes to show that the brand obviously has a recall value. But obviously because of the footfalls decreasing in the malls and issues happening, the sales aren't what they could and should be.
Okay. So, Prashant, as even Arjun mentioned, that the COVID situation is very fluid. And what about the mall culture? What are the changes there? Can you just tell us, maybe, are you coming up with some kind of a Chanakya Niti?
Well, so, when we started out about 2.5 months back, we came out with a campaign which was to assure our customers that, the mall is a safe place to come. So, as soon as you enter, there is an Arogya Setu which is checked. There is a sanitizer for your soles. You have automated sanitizer at every entry point, whether you are getting into an elevator or stepping onto an escalator, at an arm's length, you have hand sanitizers available. We obviously do not allow anybody to come in without a mask. The temperature is checked through a digital camera, which records and takes a snapshot of everyone coming in. So this particular exercise that we did about 2.5 months back did send out a very positive message to all our customers that malls are a safe place to come. We had our assumptions during lockdown as to how the recovery phase will be, but I'm happy to tell you that as far as luxury malls are concerned, that the recovery is far better than a lot of other malls, because what is happening is that especially when I talk about Emporio and Chanakya, the brands that we have housed between these two malls are one of its kind. So if you want to shop for an X brand which is available at an Emporio or a Chanakya, you don't have any other place to get it from. And both from a sales and a footfall perspective, we are very happy with the kind of results we've seen. As of last month, those footfalls over the weekends are back between 90 to 100%, and on the weekdays it is between 60 to 70%. So from that perspective, this is better recovery than what we had anticipated. And even from a sales point of view, the stronger brands are seeing a very, very sharp recovery as far as their sales are concerned.
So these numbers that you've given are definitely going to bring a smile on the faces of all my guest panels here, because this is very important that the footfalls actually come back to their 100% levels. I'm going to ask Tarang the same thing. Tarang, what about the footfalls in your stores? How are they picking up now, or are you planning to maybe do some dilution with your brand, or what is a strategy?
Sonia, so I think what Prashant was also mentioning, that things are getting back to normal, but that is seen in Delhi, because I think Delhi opened up prior as well. So, for example, we have a boutique in Palladium in Bombay, which opened 20 days back, 25 days back. So people are still getting normalized there. So it's very area specific as to what's happening according to the city, according to the cases, according to multiple things. I live in Jaipur. We have 350 cases a day. 2 weeks back, this was 40 cases a day. So, I mean, obviously things are not going to be normalized here now. So I think it is more, it's more based on that. Hotel stores are hit little worse than other stores. Because the industry is slowed down as well. There are a lot of international travelers which are not there. The local travelers are also not traveling until required. So I think those are the kind of bits which are little still needs recovery. Online has definitely done very well and compensated for the offline stores, and that ease is definitely helping. I mean, online interactions have grown a lot for us.
So initially, that hitch was there for offline to go online. So now has this pandemic made things very clear in that manner that you have to go online now, and now you're getting used to it and maybe improvising on it?
I think online is the way forward, because we don't know what's coming up. We don't know if it's going to be 1 month, 3 months, 6 months. And anyways, I think this could be a learning curve for all of us, for retail, for humanity, you may say, if I want to become more, talk upon that segment. But I think online is definitely going to be a way forward, and affordable luxury is definitely something which people are going to be looking at a lot more now versus true luxury.
Great. So I'm going to come to Nishant. Nishant, I want to know that initially the thought was that the luxury brands are mostly purchased by people who are going on international trips or leisure trips or business trips to maybe London, Singapore, Hong Kong, Dubai. So that destination shopping used to be a major reason for the Indian, for the luxury brand sales. With that down, do you think that part has come on to Indian luxury brands now? I mean, have the sales seen a difference there?
Oh yes, I think there's, at least in the home lifestyle segment, it's been a great advantage or a blessing in disguise, because a lot of people, when they do have their homes, would go, or at least a lot of our clients, when they do have their homes, go to Italy or they go to Dubai to shop for their home, to buy furniture, to buy accessories. And then by extension, they would also buy carpets there. Now, what's happening is that because they can't travel to buy things there, home, when they actually looked, and the interior designers and architects collaborated to look at brands in India, they realized that all the carpets that they were buying from Fendi Casa or from similar brands were actually made in India, but just you were paying 5 times the price. So for us, it's been a really good thing. And the other thing is that a lot of families now, having spent a lot of time in are saying that we invest in a nice vintage rug or a tea carpet, because now we're not spending the 10 lakhs or 15 lakhs that we were spending on our vacation in the south of France or in England or wherever else we were going to go. So it's an interesting. I mean, I don't think it's a sustainable thing, but it's an interesting fallout of what has happened.
So cut down on money on travel and then invest it in carpet seller, right? So here, tell us one thing, that have you all been able to keep up with the demand which has been perceived for the chartered flying? And I mean, is there some usage of PPE kits, or I mean, the hygiene of course has been maintained there, but how has the business been like? Have there been family reunions, or is it the business trips? What factors?
Sonia, I think Zoom is the new private jet.
Okay.
So they've taken away all my revenue, but yeah, so that should give you the answer that, I don't think there's a lot of travel happening for business. I mean, earlier, 80% of our sales or 75% of our sales came from business travel. We've seen that fall to almost 6 to 8%. Everyone knows how to close deals digitally right now. You've got ministers and governments doing, meetings online. But on the hindsight, leisure and family was something that was never big in the private jet space. That's become huge now because everyone's got parents or children, and everyone's most worried about people above 60 or under 20. And so that's leading to a lot of demand. There's a lot of demand to go to the Maldives suddenly. So, as each country's air bubble opens, we know we're going to be getting a lot of landing permissions to be heading in that direction. But I think everyone's dying to get out on a holiday. And, whenever I'm speaking to a lot of our first-time customers, a lot of our first-time users, they're telling me, look, instead of doing 7 trips a year or 6 trips a year and flying first, we'll do 1 trip a year and fly private and go stay in the best possible places, etc. And, I think that feeling's coming because, we reinvented our entire process. I think we reinvented the way we were flying completely with COVID. And, earlier it was all about fancy food trays and, a lot of interaction, and the pilots would shake hands with the customers as soon as they reach the airport, and everyone would keep shaking hands with you, doing this, doing that. Now, everything is completely contact free. And instead of having cabin crew dressed very elegantly, we've got cabin crew which look like astronauts, if I may say so, because they're all wearing PPE suits. There's no food and beverage on board, which is a bit of a nightmare. Earlier, it was about, what can we get you caviar from Russia and this from there. And now it's about, there's some crisps and nuts on the sideboard. You'll have to help yourself to that. So, things that I think what we're slowly moving towards is, earlier we were perceived as a luxury. Now we're being perceived as, a necessity. Which is great because necessity is always more in demand than luxury. So I think in that way, but it's going to be a long time before travel returns to what it was.
Okay, so that's the same thing I want to ask Reena, the luxury versus necessity. So it used to be designer wear and beautiful coutures, but now with work from home and not much social gatherings or social parties, Reena, what are the new kind of orders that you're getting from your customers, your international celebrity customers, etc., etc.?
So to say that we haven't suffered would be a lie on my part. We've all had an effect from the pandemic, and my orders, like even with our fixed buyers where our POs were opened, were held up and are still in a kind of a limbo. These are brands in America, big customers. Even they have, so when the world is affected, we are affected, because if you're in garments and you're supplying internationally, whether Japan, both my buyers, they're still holding on, the ordering has reduced. But on the other hand, we are manufacturers. As manufacturers right now, I'm working on a hospital line for Apollo hospitals. for Cradle. So I have some work in hand, I can keep my workers busy, and it is giving us, a kind of a balance. So now one has to look for new kinds of opportunity. When it comes to a luxury customer, I overheard someone say affordable luxury. That is really what our customer wants now. They want a designer piece, they want a designer product, perhaps to not negate what Prashant said. I have seen myself that international strong brands like Louis Vuitton, Gucci, they are really doing well. But when it comes to Indian brands and Indian counterparts, there is a lot of concessions we have to give, or we have to make new lines or capsule lines more suited towards their needs, pocket, and yet give them the service they expect out of a designer. So that has been a change, but it's still a welcome relief, I must say. I don't mind doing it. As long as there is work, none of us are looking at this year for making any income. We just want to be able to pay our workers so that there is a continuity factor which carries on.
Yeah, that state of flux should keep happening, and the workers should be busy and the work should go on. Tarang, same thing I want to ask you what even Reena has said, affordable luxury. I want to know whether are you also going to get into something like affordable jewels or your affordable entry level brands, something like that, some strategy change from now on?
So, as I was saying before about this, we have Amrapali, and then we have launched this another brand called Tribe Amrapali, and this was the example I was giving before of Palladium and so on. That is what we are seeing a lot of movement in, because that is what that gives. That is what it's offering. It's offering affordable luxury. So it comes from the umbrella of the Amrapali brand. So the client who wants to buy something from a brand such as that comes to us, and also what we are seeing is a lot of millennials don't want to spend maybe 5 lakhs on a piece of necklace. They rather want to spend 50,000 rupees, and they can find that at Tribe with us, and they will have the same emotional value to that product. The thing is that the mindsets are also changing. We were spending is what was sort of told to us. That's what we've been what we've been told for saving and to have in the future and so on. But today a lot of people don't feel that way. They have emotional value only. So that is one part to it. And again, affordable luxury, I feel was already growing. It was already something which was very good for an entry level buyer, which we have a lot in this country. Which the mid segment is such a huge segment, and as I was saying, millennials and younger people to be able to walk into a store and not feel intimidated, but to be able to pick up something which is not necessarily very expensive and they can afford, and then eventually move on to the upper brand. That is something what we've been working towards from pre-COVID times as well, and we see a very big shift, and we see the future going in this direction.
So Tarang, there was this huge debate over gold buying and investing in gold. So I would say I would want to ask, did you make hay in that?
See, for us, unless we are able to sell it, right? So it's both the scenarios, right? But I think there is going to be a little bit of a correction, not much. But what people have also understood during the whole time is that gold and silver, precious metal, was the most stable if you see across. See oil prices, see share markets, and multiple reasons. Be it the elections happening in America and China issues or whatever. But gold and silver has been the most stable, or at least given some increase. So there is definitely more comfort in precious metals, and it's one of those things where families and parents say that maine kaha tha na, invest in gold. So I think that is what we are at.
Yeah, in US especially, we saw a lot of investments in gold there. So now I would like on to Arjun. Arjun, I want to know, we were talking about affordable luxury, but here, what are your views on this? Is this some kind of a dilution to a brand, which is a luxury brand, and customers may not like it eventually?
So I think affordable luxury obviously is a thing that is there to stay. But the people that swear by the brands that they have will save up and go for the brands that they deem right at the right time, because that's the way they've wearing a luxury is even though it's 4% of the population of India, that's still a massive absolute number. Like Prashant was mentioning, the things have picked up again. So that number is too large for anyone to sort of ignore or say that, they will deviate towards this or they'll deviate towards that, right? If you look at the way things are shaping up here, people will look at a mix of both. Which way it will shape up, I think it remains to be seen. If the economic indicators right now or any, give us any visibility into the future, it's going to take some time to pick up, where people will want to live a decent life, but they will want to try to control their expenses to the extent that they can, which is where affordable luxury could and will play a role. But what we see, at least from our end, is typically you look at customers moving up as the disposable income grows and coming to our brands and buying our brands. That is a base that increases by, let's say, 0.3% every year is what we look at coming into our brands and buying our brands, which probably weren't able to afford us earlier. I think that number will be stagnant for the next 2 years, if not more, because those people will still stick to the brands they were buying earlier. So there definitely is a hit. So affordable luxury, I mean, it will come in. What way it will take, it's quite fluid right now for anyone to make an assessment on that. But yeah, I mean, I think it's here to stay for sure.
Okay, great. So, Sahil, here I want to ask you, it has been said that the Asian markets are going to drive the most of luxury markets growth. So, do you agree with it? And how do you see it coming now, especially with a lot of jobs, security an issue, unemployment an issue, and things like that, especially with if you think about China and India, the two big markets.
So having such a large country with such large diversities, India having such large population, I personally I think the demand will still continue to grow, because and the only thing what you need to understand is that in such a large country which has it's so diversified that the south, if you able to cater to customers needs and requirements, I don't think this is going to be a challenge, because all you need to do is to understand the customers. I look at this country as multi country, where there are, so demand in South India is different than what in North would be, East and West is different. If you're able to cater to the customers' requirements separately, I mean, for example, we guys are manufacturing, and designing on a different so what goes in North may or may not go in South, and vice versa. So I think if you're able to do that, I don't see the demand is bound to be there.
Right. So Prashant, like Sahil is saying, that the big thing is how do you understand the customer? And I think no one better than you can tell us about that, because you were also given the award for innovative hotelier, and you've been there for 2 decades now. So tell us, what are the changes that we can see in the Mohall culture now, or maybe from the retailer's point of view, how are they going to allure the customers to come into malls and actually spend?
So what we've seen in the last, post the lockdown being lifted and the malls being allowed to be operational, as I mentioned, there were certain steps that we took, but that was just one part of it. A similar exercise was done by each and every retailer that we have within our malls. And, whether it's international guidelines or their own standards, which the standalone stores have made, each one actually went out of the way to ensure that, you gave that comfort and sense of safety to all the consumers. What we saw additionally was that there were new mediums of sales that emerged. So, things like WhatsApp calling or personal shopper, like both Emporio and Chanakya currently have a personal shopper who's dedicated. You can just reach out to the concierge of the mall, and the personal shopper will engage with you over a video call, take you to your brands of your choice, and ensure that you are able to shop from the comfort of your home. Or things like curbside pickup. These things were practically non-existent before the pandemic, but these are new avenues that have opened up, both from our perspective, where we can help our brands reach out to their consumers, as well as for brands themselves to explore these ideas. One is that you take the personal shopper from the mall, but the other is also that each and every brand, through their brand managers and through the store staff, are trying to reach out to their consumer base through various mediums to ensure that the sales are carried out.
Okay, and now if we talk about the availability of finance, since we have been seeing a lot of measures by the finance ministry and with the banks opening up the loans and the EMIs. So I would like to come on to maybe Nishant. Nishant, do you think marketing or maybe financing, these things can change for better for the Indian luxury brands? It may be a radical idea, but there's no harm in thinking like that.
I think so far the kind of clients that we have don't really have. I mean, we don't really have that many people who come to us and will be looking at EMIs or that kind of thing. I think it's for larger things. It is definitely. I'm sure there have been a lot of innovations in banking and the services that financial institutions offer to clients.
So I have a question here that if Mercedes S-Class can be taken on finance, why not other luxury brands?
It's a very good idea. It's a radical idea, and I think we should all work towards that.
Okay. Sahil, would you want to say something on this?
Affordable luxury retail is not dependent on financing. I feel and installments in a large measure. Honestly, lower interest rates have made a small percentage of the EMI sales more attractive, and credit card companies are pitching in. So I personally feel it's just impulsive. Affordable luxury is very impulsive, and
it may not work out, and it will not work out. Reena, I would want to ask you that when the lockdown was over, so there were this news that the people are going to the designer houses, but they're buying very entry-level products, like less than 2,000 rupees stuff. So, which was quite a setback to all the fashion designers. Has the thing changed now? Has condition improved?
The problem with fashion, especially for the Indian fashion designer, I would imagine, is inventory. Because when this lockdown happened, it was of course, unprecedented. None of us knew the future. Stocks were in, also it was a prime season because Feb is one of our prime buying season in India. So you are creating collections for Feb and March, and then you're locked down for 6 months and you're opening onto sales, which also I feel were a bit of a whimper this year in comparison to the earlier years. There was buying. The very recession-proof client is not affected. Then there is a client who hasn't traveled abroad. But there is also a client who needs Indian designer wear because he has an occasion to go to. His needs have changed. There is no occasion for him to go to. So what does he need? He needs is more casual, or if he gets a deal, which is where you're saying about the 2,000 rupees. So in both cases, some of them may not be affected. They may say, okay, we'll buy it now, we'll wear it later. But there is really, we've removed the need for what category we were producing for in Feb. So that's really been the turning point for all of us, at least for me and some others in my boat. But you know, as an entrepreneur and as an Indian designer, I feel one has to survive. Times have changed, and I can't just sit and complain about moan about it anymore because the 6 months have elapsed. High time for me to adapt. So I do have to find ways to adapt, as many others have. Look at Louis Vuitton. They went on to earn profits in a lockdown. I mean, we may not have their kind of resources, but the fact is that they did it. So one guy who may be the top of the chain can do it. We guys who are like little limbies following them may strive to be there in our own small way. So I feel it is still a downturn, and it will stay for a very long time to come. And all of us as designers and in an industry will still have a struggle for a bit. It's still a very long journey for us.
An uphill task. Yeah. So Kanika, how about you? Do you think there are some opportunities here in COVID that you should actually jump on? Maybe some kind of challenges that you can actually beat up right now?
So I think in adversity lies opportunity, and I've seen that for the last 6 years. I've been working in an industry where everyone says if you're a billionaire and want to become a millionaire, come start it, and we've been profitable. And the first time we saw a loss in our life since inception was I think April and May, those 2 months. And obviously, it came as a big heart attack because I'd never been used to something like this. But ever since then, we've been we moved towards break even. Now we're slightly profitable. And that's only been through constant innovating. and I think all of us can do it. Just to give you an example, I'm in Mykonos right now, and we crossed the Louis Vuitton store yesterday. There was a line of 97 people queued up outside in the tiny town of Mykonos, which is off season right now. There are very few people. They were all queuing up for these new masks they've come up with, face shield mask, I don't know, whatever it is, for $960 per person. And obviously, if you're queuing up for a $960 shield or mask, you've got to have the money to spend it also. And then we went a little ahead, and there was a Dior store that had a queue of 40 plus people too. So, if it's happening elsewhere, it's going to happen. I mean, hotels here haven't dropped prices. And so I think, it's about how we use this in our favor. I personally, we've been trying to market ourselves as the safest way to travel. And we've seen a lot of people come on board. We've been letting people split the plane cost, close out all seats that are attached, only sell single seats, and do shuttles between Bombay, Delhi, Bombay, Bangalore, etc. All of which have worked. But so I think, if we work hard enough, there is enough opportunity to be found.
So will it be cheeky for me to ask you to show us those masks that you must have definitely bought from there?
No, I did not buy any. I'm not standing in queue to buy anything.
You get much better masks in India for very good prices.
Exactly. Yeah.
The Louis Vuitton mask
is
a trend, but it's
mask
not really weather friendly for us.
Yeah, I would rather not buy these things, but yeah. So what I'm saying is, there is a lot going. I mean, I'm seeing it here. Like, for more we were all very hesitant about going down to eat breakfast, and they had 8 servers. You don't touch anything on the buffet. The servers serve your plate and give it to you, which is why the hotels are packed. So I think we've all got to keep innovating and figuring out how do we make businesses work.
Exactly. So one good optimistic thing that you've told us, that there has been long queues, which shows us what actually might happen to India also if we think about this pandemic as just a normal course of life that we have to live now, and maybe get used to it, and go out of the homes and lead a normal life, and maybe get out of that frustration and depression which one may be feeling sitting at home. So I would want to come to Nishant. Nishant, do you think at such a time when the industry is facing definitely a crisis in terms of customers, do you expect the government to butt in to help out, some regulatory measures or some other legal issues out here which can be sorted out soon?
I have always felt that businessmen and industry thrives in spite of the government and not because of the government. I think we are all adequately equipped to innovate, to
Nishant, is it just me who can't hear you? Yeah.
I can't hear.
No, we can't hear him either.
So Nishant, there's some issue with the audio, but maybe we can ask this question to Arjun. Arjun can give us a better perspective also.
I think Nishant is just willing to come back. I think we'll wait for him, but if he's not there, then I can take it forward. Nishant, are you there? I think he's frozen. Yeah. Can you just say that again? Can you just rephrase the question again, Sonia?
So I was asking that the Indian luxury brands now, everyone has accepted that the sales have gone down. Everyone has incurred losses. So what kind of help from the government, or maybe some regulatory issues which could be diluted here, which could help the industry, or other issues that the industry is facing right now?
So, I mean, the industry is facing an issue, I think, on all sides, right? Whether it's importing things, whether it's getting the right, the spaces, making sure that, I don't know if you read Toyota's article today. Toyota said that they're not going to expand in India anymore because of the taxes say that we don't care, we don't want your business, right? I'm not going to get into that platform here because I don't think I'm qualified enough to talk about the things that they can do. I'm sure if they open it up, there are a lot of suggestions that have gone in from FICCI side and various other organizations for them to make sure the things increase. What I can say is from what we do know and what we do read is, see, the Chinese traveler, when they travel abroad, they contribute a lot to business outside. So a lot of the luxury shopping outside is done by business travelers, right? If we turn India into a tourism hub, and I mean, Kanik can obviously sort of step in here and say how things are, and then you make sure that there's a tax rebate and there's a tax holiday if people come in here and shop, and there is encouragement of investment coming into India, I think that will definitely help, right? as a nation, by absolute numbers, like, people here have mentioned, you can't go wrong with the country, right? In terms of percentages wise, yes, the percentages are single digits in a lot of things, right? But absolute numbers wise, we outnumber quite a few economies. So if you do things in the right way and you make sure that domestically and outside is done, I think that can do a lot. And, in line with what the government is saying of being self-reliant, I think if one can look at coming up with a policy that the domestic stays within the borders, I think that's something to help the country out. I'm not saying we should become a protectionist economy or change this or change that. But off the bat, I would say there are a lot of things that one can do here. I mean, one can definitely make good, make hay while the sun shines in India. There are a lot of things that can be done here, and all of us here have been profitable here. I've been here for a while. I've done well here. So I'm sure the government looks at it with a fine way, and they make sure they address everyone's concerns, whatever it is, and they can identify, address maybe 4 out of the 10 concerns or whatever it is. I think it can definitely help on that.
So, Prashant, do you really agree with what Arjun said? And is India really ready for a destination shopping industry?
From a regional point of view, India is, to a certain extent ready, because we always compete with a lot of large hubs around, whether it is Dubai or Singapore. But, when you talk about countries which are immediate neighbors, like, we've seen, at least at Emporio, a large contingent every year coming in from Bangladesh or from Sri Lanka or from Nepal. So yes, these countries do, India does become a hub to a certain extent, but we always do play with very, very large players with respect to Dubai and Singapore, taking the largest share every year.
So the other regulatory issues of FDI, or maybe the sourcing of Indian products. So those things might hamper, or they need to be just carried on. Maybe the luxury brands have got used to it now.
Well, luxury brands have now gotten used to that particular point. So there are quite a few brands that have made direct entry into India. And, we do have a lot of players within our 2 malls who have directly come into India without an Indian representative. There were certain issues that were prevailing till about 2 years back. And after that, there was a clarification which was issued by the government of India, wherein they did clarify on the sourcing point as well, which made it easier for the companies to come in. In fact, I was having a chat with one of the leading somebody who leads a lot of international brands, and he said that whatever the government has done about 2 years back is working to an advantage for international brands to come into India directly.
So, Reena, what kind of orders are you getting now? I mean, because of COVID, is it the mask that Kanika was telling us about? The big brands are their masks are hot selling and all. So, how about yours?
So to reply to what Kanika is saying, is because Virgil Abloh of the Louis Vuitton designer is like a wave, a trend. And a lot of the rich travelers of Europe went to travel, including some of my family, friends. They went off to the coastal areas to shop, to be there in the summer, because August is the summertime for Europeans. And that's why they're shopping. And likewise in India, a lot of people have not traveled abroad. And I feel they're shopping a lot of the branded goods. But in terms of orders, they haven't increased. No, it is a struggle now to get business. Every buyer is very cautious, because everywhere, whether it's the strongest, like I work with one of the companies, like one of the Fortune 500 companies is one of our buyers. Even they have really slimmed down their orders. Their buyers have been working from the houses. They go to work once a week. This is America or Europe. So, we are getting like a 50% if we are very fortunate of, and the struggle is greater for us than ever to have a product compete with so many others, which they can pick it out from. However, I do feel there is opportunity going forward in the future with exports, because if China, our biggest, it's a fabulous country for productions, for exports and clothing. If China is really not a preferred nation, then India can be looked up to. So if we can sort of find a way to get some government push, which works and is easy to be, merged in with all the factors, we stand a good opportunity here. Going forward, I think in a few years, when the world economy starts, reeling back on its feet, where the buying starts happening, where consumption, demand, all that increases.
And we've already missed the bus twice, once going to Bangladesh and the other going to Vietnam. So now it's high time that it comes to us. So I would want to come now to Sahil. Sahil, can you just tell us what do you think would be the sustainability mantra now, post-COVID or these last days of COVID?
I personally feel be continually inspired by the demanding customers, evolve and adapt with the changing environment, not let go the opportunity in the new normal. Is what I personally feel going forward. And the focus on product quality and creativity should be three enduring features in the new normal.
Great. So how about, yeah, yes, please. Yeah.
No, so in positive version and good in creativity, creative brands are eternal and thrive in perpetuity. What I feel will always remain.
The perpetuality is definitely required, and the opportunities need to be taken care of. Nishant, what about you? What do you think will be your sustainability mantra, and especially any changes in brand strategies or something? So Prashant had this audio issue in Nishant had this audio. Is he back or no? So maybe we can go over to Tarang. Tarang, are you here?
Yeah.
So Tarang, could you tell us what do you think will your roadmap be for the future, post-COVID or these last COVID days?
I think the real analysis will start now when the festivities are going to start. You know, again, the kind of business we are in, it's very wedding seasonal. It's very it's not only based on that, but it's definitely affected with this. So weddings are coming, Diwali is coming, and festivities are coming. So I think this is when we will be able to understand what the client is still looking for in terms of luxury and in terms of still hoping to spend what on jewelry at the weddings and things like that. Sustainability, as you were talking about before, is I think a very important part, and I think we all are spending time and trying to figure out more and more things which we can do or contribute within our brands to give this message, to be able to do this also, and to give this message to the clients also, that this is what we are doing in terms of packaging with less plastic. I can't still say no plastic, but we are definitely working towards that. No plastic bottles and so on. There's so many things which we are working on. So I think that is something which we have to really focus on, not just in luxury, I think across all businesses and you know, households everywhere.
Great. So Arjun, how do you think festivals which are pending now will bring a cheer to the Indian luxury brands?
I think that's what we're looking at, and that's what I think we're all hoping for, right? Festivals do play a big role in all of our activities and whatnot. I don't know if you've been seeing the wedding industry. They've come up with the launch which says Har Din Shubh Hai, which are trying to make sure that the weddings happen around the year, because they realize that no one can rely on seasons and whatnot. And you know, it's become a viral campaign. It's doing quite well from what we can tell. That said, the seasons do play a big role. The festivals do play a big role. I would suspect that Diwali would obviously not be as as good as been in the past, but it is something that would bring things up. The thing that we have seen, at least in our sort of frame of things, is that Shraddh used to infect our buying, right? Because our buying obviously is not that large buying. For the last 3 years, Shraddh has had not had an impact on us, right? I mean, barring this year. This, I think, every day has had an impact on us, right? But other than that, there's not been a period of that. But when festivals do come in, people do go out, and I think people are chirpier and they're happier. It's a happier time to be around. So people will buy, and they will like to buy, and whatever their sort of pocket size or whatever they deem fit at the time. So I do see festival things picking up. Is it going to be as good as last year? Definitely not. I mean, I don't think there's any question about that. But we should be at a fairly percentage. That is a ray of light we see. And you know what the gentleman was saying earlier, Nishant, that in a country like India, we're resilient. We are what we are because what we've done on our own, right? We worked hard. We've done whatever needed to be done. So festivals are something that we look forward to. I am very keen on it, and I think that I hope that everything works out to us the way that we have sort of planned it. I would see it Diwali to be a good time this one around.
Yeah, sure. So Prashant, what do you feel? I mean, is it going to be a Diwali where it'll be like a gusto spirit, or especially after the COVID lockdown, you've seen people coming in, especially footfalls on weekends have been 100% pre-COVID levels. So how do you think Diwali, Christmas, Dussehra, New Year, how the future will be?
So we are actually very hopeful from a Diwali and the festive seasons perspective. In fact, from the 14th of next month, which is October, we're starting with the India Fashion Week, which Reena was talking about, and that also starts the luxury shopping festival for our malls, followed by couture weddings, which is to give an impact. This is a property that we do every year, both luxury shopping festival and couture weddings, and we're this time clubbing that. Hoping that our customers will be back. Looking forward to buying from Indian designers and international brands for the season, whether it is, those limited Diwali parties that will happen or the weddings that will take place during this time. So yes, we are pretty optimistic to have people come back and shop from not just the international brands, but from the Indian designers as well, because those avenues will open up then.
So Rita, do you think the wedding season is going to create a lot of demand for the fashion designers and the luxury designers here?
In fact, at Emporio, when we opened in June, the buyer who was courageous enough to make the first steps in were the wedding buyers. So they have weddings, I think, November or December onwards, because they're postponed. So there is, I've even talked to a friend of mine who's another designer who does a lot of exports, and he is now thinking of venturing into bridal wear because he feels that there will be a big opportunity there in a certain segmented priced designer wear. I mean, of course, very high priced, as we know, very few, they're recession proof will buy. They're very few. They're not enough to sustain a whole section of us. So what he feels, and I think he's right, was that in a well-priced designer wear wedding market, there will be a lot of weddings, and there is opportunity in that, because the whole, say, 8 months of weddings have been pushed. So they will happen, and perhaps I'll keep our fingers crossed.
Great, fingers crossed. And so Kanika here, the Baratis need to be traveling safe, and so you have more charter flights. You expecting that?
Hopefully, let's
You have
see.
a way to weave everyone into your story now.
Yeah, so there'll be shopping trips to Prashant's malls from all the small cities, which we've been seeing over the past few years. Okay, then we've got to fly the wedding guests all over. But, again, people are talking destination weddings, etc. It's all going to be local because every week countries are changing rules regarding their borders. Today, Switzerland announced that anyone coming in from anywhere in Europe will be quarantined for 14 days. India hasn't moved beyond the 6 countries it's made an air bubble with. So, I think weddings in India are going to be huge, hopefully. And people will spend more money on lesser people, so they fly private instead of flying commercial.
So, Tarang, can we expect people giving return gifts as jewelry?
I hope so. Seriously hope so.
It's been across, I'm telling you, across the board for everyone.
I think it is about smaller weddings. It's going to be about spending lavishly on the few which you really care about, and not just do a big show, which I think all weddings have kind of become also. I think this is the hope in our sector at least.
So that means that Sahil will go to the drawing board and probably start making some new smart luggage collections. Am I right?
It has.
maybe after the spring collection, the new one.
Absolutely.
Yes. What are your ending comments?
Oh, so I would rather quote this festive season as a celebratory season, because a lot of weddings and a lot of events have been postponed, and they've been and shifted maybe from now the next quarter and or Jan, Feb, March. So the next 2 quarters looks to be quite interesting, and we can see that the weather changes in the country. People are in the happy shopping way to happiness. So there's all positivity.
Okay, so I'll quickly take some questions that we have, and the first question is from VS Raj Purohit. He says, my question to all panelists is how the future looks like for luxury car rental startups and travel related startups since the pandemic has completely stopped the traveling or car driving experiences for some time. So I guess anyone who would want to answer about luxury car rentals here? Prashant, maybe you?
Well, luxury car rentals is something which is not a market that we currently service at the luxury malls. So maybe
Sonia, if I may add, I'll help Prashant.
Kanika would be the right person to jump in.
Okay, so
I think it's definitely going to pick up because you've got shared transport. I mean, people don't want to use shared transport anymore. You don't want to use an Uber or an Ola or whatever. So the next step is renting a car if you can't afford to buy one, right? So I think, again, it's about how the opportunity is driven. Are you saying, are people going to, rent luxury cars for humongous sums of money? No, but if you can make it accessible, everyone's got that extra disposable income which they want to use, which is being saved on traveling and et cetera, et cetera. So it's about how you position it and what you do out of it, right?
Right. So Karanveer Singh Chugh has asked that the queued up lines are only there for luxury brands, but currently affordable brands aren't getting that much of notice. The psyche for luxury brand customers is far more different than those of affordable brands. So what is the current scenario and the road ahead for affordable brands? I think we've answered that, right?
That's correct.
So I think these were the open questions that we wanted to answer. And I would want to thank all my panelists for a lovely session, a very informative and a very interesting one. I hope you all also enjoyed it and learned from each other's fortes, how you're going to make some brand strategies for getting people to stores and people to fly and people to buy bags, etc., etc. So I thank you once again, each one of you. Thanks a lot for being here.
Thank you.
We'll be back again with another informative session on some other industry. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.
Thank you.